It's a Guy Jeans podcast.
Today, it is not uncommon to hear people speak of trying to get back to nature, to get in touch with the earth once more. The truth is, we have never been out of touch. We are always connected to the earth and it to us. Everything we do repercusses upon it, and everything within it repercusses on us. Unfortunately, most choose to ignore it or are unable to recognize it. The saddest part is that when we fail to reverence any aspect of nature and our intimate connection to it, we are failing to reverence intimate aspects of our own self. Nature has filled my life. I was fortunate in spending most of my childhood among woods, ponds, creeks, and fields. Animals have always come to me in dreams and in waking. They have guided me in life decisions, and they even spoke to me of my father's death. I have seen the wolf in the wild, eye to eye. I have encountered moose, bear, porcupines, and otters. I have held hawks, owls, and even a golden eagle upon my arm. I have been nipped by a fox. I have fed vultures and marveled at the bellowing of elk on a distant hill. And with it all, I am amazed at the wonder of nature, its multiplicity, and especially at what it is saying to me about my own life at the time of such encounters. I look for what it's trying to teach me. I know nature speaks to us if we listen. Every animal has a story to tell. Every flower blossoms with reminders to be creative. And every tree whispers with its rustling leaves the secrets of life. That was from the author Ted Andrews, who wrote the book Animal Speak I'm showcasing today. Ted passed away in 2009, but his work of 40 authored books lives on. Ted Andrews was an American writer, teacher of esoteric practices, and a clairvoyant. This book, Animal Speak, has sold over 600,000 copies. In this book, Ted writes about many animals and insects and their meaning and how they might connect with what's going on in our own life. I want to tell you guys a couple stories about 3 different animals. One's an eagle, one's a beaver, and one's an owl. Some of you may have heard the owl story in previous podcasts, but I'm going to tell that story later on. But I want to tell you guys, which I haven't told many people, about an eagle experience I've had, and also a life-changing beaver story I've had. And listening to those signs, that symbolism, has changed my life. The eagle symbolizes vitality and power, and with their feathers and large wings, they also represent speed and greatness. With the totemic spirit of the eagle and its energy in your life, you'll feel ready to accept challenges and put your fears aside. So with that being said, I had an amazing eagle experience up in Matilaha Canyon, up past Ojai there, if you guys have ever been up that canyon and hiked back into the Matilaha wilderness. I was hiking back there and fishing with my dad one time, and we had hiked and fished a couple miles up Matilaha Creek up into the wilderness, and we were a couple hours back in the wilderness there, and it's a pine forest mixed in with oaks and all kinds of shrubs and those types of plants, kind of a semi-arid kind of climate. And we were walking along the trail, and we crossed the stream, and then we go around this corner, pretty sharp corner the trail takes, and we're sitting there. We stop for a second, and we start talking to each other, and this big eagle, golden eagle, comes down and lands probably about maybe 5 feet away from us on this big stump. And we're both just kind of, my dad are just kind of like looking at this eagle. Both of us had never experienced this before, and it just sat there and just stared at us, almost like it was tame. And we were just sitting there looking at it for quite some time, and staring at each other back and forth. And at the time I didn't realize kind of what was going on, but it was definitely a sign, in my opinion. And not every day that a big eagle comes down and lands right next to you and just sits there and shows itself to you in front of your dad. And so your dad and yourself. So we actually, it didn't move or anything, and we decided that we would move on after about probably, 10-15 minutes or so. We just sat there and stared at each other, which is so strange, right? And during that time in my life, anyway, we ended up hiking up the trail, and just the eagles just stayed there. And so we hiked up the trail and continued fishing and talking about that whole experience and stuff, and we still talk about it every once in a while. But at that time, many years ago, I didn't know kind of what I was going to do in my life. I mean, I had different businesses and stuff going, and playing music and bands and everything, and it just I had dreams of being a fly fishing guide and opening up a fly shop and that sort of thing, just kind of in the back burner. And, I believe that eagle kind of gave me the strength to kind of take the next steps. And I listened and went for it. And so not long after that, I was up on the Kern River and I was trying to figure out how I was going to become a fly fishing guide and open up a fly shop. And I was on the river fishing one day, and this is before I had a business, and I was just up there fishing before I had opened up my fly shop and guide service and all that. And I just happened to be out on the river, and it was kind of twilight, and I was up around the Thunderbird area up there, which is about 6 miles, 5-6 miles above the town of Kernville. And I was out on the river, and I was fishing in kind of a calm area and just upstream from the put in there. And it was beautiful out. It was the sun had set, and it was kind of going, had gone behind the mountain, I should say. And so I sat out on this rock, this big rock, and I was just sitting there, and I was kind of watching fish rise around me and stuff. And this beaver came out of nowhere. And it was real close to me, and he just popped up on a rock out in the middle of the river and was eating some type of plant, and it was just like staring at me. And then all of a sudden another one popped up, and it was kind of in the same area, and it started eating as well, and they were both just staring at me. And then the next moment, two little ones popped up, and they were staring at me as well. And I was like, what is going on here? I couldn't believe it. And so we all 5 of us just sat there and stared at each other for a while, and they didn't move. They were just all watching me and eating their food. And if you look into the beaver and its meaning, they are ingenious builders. They make these amazing dams, and they can change the flowing course of entire rivers. And in what Ted talks about is the impressive aspect, along with its association with the water, makes the beaver an analogy for building up our dreams. So listening to that and understanding what that meant and that sort of thing, I made the decision to move up to Kernville and start the fly shop. And ended up having 2 daughters as well. And so it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool, and ended up opening up the fly shop, starting the guide service, and been doing it for about 22 years now, which is awesome, and I've enjoyed every bit of it. One more story I want to tell you guys about, and it's an owl story, and it's kind of a interesting one and kind of a mysterious one at that. And it has to do with being on the Kern River again and me guiding 2 clients. I was meeting 2 clients at the shop, and one of my clients was an older client. He was I think he was 75, and another was a friend of his. And he had told me that his friend, the 75-year-old, hasn't been fly fishing in a while and wanted to get back out on the river and do some more fly fishing and get back into it and everything. And I said, awesome, let's go. And so we headed upriver, and we went up past the Thunderbird area where I was talking about to a place called Chico Flat, and there was a bunch of fish in there, and wild fish in this section. And so I got there, we parked the vehicle, and hopped on over it's kind of a little ledge there, went down and got to the water. And my previous client said, hey, as when we got to the water, hey, why don't you hang with Mark for a little bit, and I'm going to go upriver and see what I can find. And I said, okay. And so he went upriver, and he actually crossed the river over into this little area that was kind of a little offshoot of the river, kind of hidden away from the main river. And so he was over there kind of fishing that. And so me and Mark started fishing a dry dropper, dry fly on the surface and a nymph below. And he immediately catches a fish, and I net it. And he says to me, yeah, life doesn't get much better than this, guy. And I'm like, you're right, it sure doesn't. I mean, everything was right. The weather was right. The river was crystal clear. Everything was amazing. The temperature, it was just a beautiful spring day. And so we walked up a little bit, fished another pool. He did the exact same thing, caught a really nice trout. And he's all, yep, like I said, life doesn't get any better, man. This is pretty amazing. And I said, yep. And so we fished a little bit longer. And I said, hey, I'm going to go check your buddy out and see how he's doing. So he's all right, I'll be good. And so I went up the river, and I crossed the river and went over to that little side channel where this guy was fishing. And we're sitting there fishing, and I go, yeah, this guy's name was Mark. I go, Mark's having a great time. He just caught a couple of wild rainbows, and, he's all, man, life doesn't get much better. And he's, oh, that's so awesome, man. I really wanted him to catch some fish and have a great time because he hasn't been fishing in so long. And awesome. So we're sitting there talking and fishing, and all of a sudden we hear this owl just whoo, whoo, just howling up a storm. And I'm all, what is that? And this guy's I think that's an owl. And I go, it is an owl. And I kind of had known what owls meant in the spirit world, and so I was kind of getting nervous. So the owl kept going off. And so I'm going to go check on Mark, and so I went out into where I could look downstream at the main river, and I looked downstream and I couldn't see Mark, and I started to get my heart rate started to go up, and I'm like, oh, I don't see Mark, and I'm scanning the river up and down, and then I look across the river and I see Mark laying down in the water with his face up. And I yell to his buddy, hey, man, Mark's down. Mark's down. And I flew across the river and got to the other side, ran down and got him. And I actually tried to pull him up onto the bank, get him out of the water. And then his buddy finally arrived, and we both pulled him up out of the water, and we started CPR. And then he started, I go, you can do CPR. I'm going to run and get help. And so I ran up the mountain, got in my truck, and drove down to River Kern and said, hey, my client, I think he had a heart attack, and can you guys call 911? And they're like, yeah. And so by that time I had driven all the way down to Kernville and down to the ambulance area, the little area where they have the ambulances. And I said, hey, my client's upriver at Chico Flat. I think he had a heart attack. And they're, okay, guy. And so they got in their ambulance, and fire truck started coming, and we all went up there. And got up there, and everybody got out of their vehicles and went down the side, and his buddy had done CPR, and unfortunately, he had passed, I believe, and the fire crews were trying to revive him and all that kind of stuff. And anyway, they got him and put him into the ambulance, and off they went. And I don't know, probably, I don't know, a year later, I was presenting down at some club down in Southern California. I was doing a talk, and this lady came up who was a friend of Mark who had passed away, and he said, "Hey, I'm a friend of Mark's. Can you tell me kind of what happened?" And I told her the exact story I just told you guys. And she got this weird look on her face, and she's like, that is so weird. He had owls all over his office, and we called him the night owl. And I'm just like, whoa, But it was interesting, the traditional meaning of the owl, the spirit animal, is the announcer of death that Ted talks about. Most likely symbolic, like a life transition or change, and so it means other things as well. But I had kind of taken it as that, like the owl was basically saying, hey, there's something going on here, and Mark is passing, and that sort of thing. So anyway, I really suggest or recommend this book if you like, the animal realm and seeing animals and kind of relating animals to your own life. Ted actually even talks about insects and other creatures, reptiles as well, as symbols of things going on in your life. And it's kind of fun. I've turned my friends and family onto it as well. And so like when an animal comes into your life, you can kind of look up in the book and go, oh, I guess I could do this a little bit better, or I could do that a little bit better. So it's kind of fun. But Animal Speak by Ted Andrews, great book, a lot of fun. You'll learn a lot, and I highly recommend it. So there you guys have it. Thanks for listening, you guys. Really appreciate it, and I will talk to you guys soon.
It's a Guy Jeans podcast.